Do you see me?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
We finally did it. Yay! My word.
This is a small miracle. You have.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
Debbie, you know, I'm feeling very proud of us, and I have no reason to be that way, but I'm feeling very proud of us.
Oh,
We
my
actually did something. Look at that, we're seeing each other and talking.
Isn't it wonderful,
Jim,
huh?
it's nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you.
Well, this is our first experience, so bravo to all of us. Well, I know Jim's been doing this for a little bit. I am new at this, and I said, I'll be darned. Nothing is going to stand in my way. I'm going to conquer this one way.
You know, I downloaded the app, and I feel like now I've got Chrome. I didn't think I needed it, but now I've got it. And, you know, I'm a Zoom person. I do everything on Zoom. So this is really new for me. Usually I just get the link or I make the link happen. So this is interesting. I don't know. You may be the only one I ever do. What's it called? Schoolyard, Streamline?
StreamYard.
That's
okay. The only person I ever do this with, but you're worth it. You're worth it.
We've widened our horizons.
We have. And I'm going to do this. You hear that?
I just want you to know I looked better before this. I looked better before I got into this. But it became like,
you look wonderful, Aunt Betty.
No, now you want me to talk about meditative stuff. Okay, that's cool.
Well, first of all, I want to say good morning, Jim. Good morning, Aunt Betty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Bright Horizons, everybody, with Deb Colella, Jim Chiaffi, and my wonderful, lovely Aunt Betty, who has joined us as our guest.
Yay!
Nice to see you. Nice to see you guys.
Are you kidding? We've talked. You know, it's really amazing how, thank God for technology, because in all reality, you know, we have been able to keep track of our friends growing up and family. It does, because life gets so chaotic and so hectic, and it's very difficult to keep up with everybody. So thank God we have this. So, Jim, you want to start the show?
First time you've been wearing eyeglasses. First time you've been wearing eyeglasses on our show, Deb.
Oh, it's just, I'm tired. All right, is that better? I can see clearly.
I'm just teasing you.
No, I know. I can actually see with them. No, you're not. No, of course you are.
Debbie, are you recording already?
Yes.
Yes. Well, let me just say something before we get started. I want you to know I really appreciate what you and Jim do on this show.
Oh, thank you.
I remember the first couple of times I watched it, I wasn't quite sure where the show was taking me. But I realized that the intention behind what you both do is so innocent and pure in terms of wanting very much to bring joy and inclusiveness into your work.
Thank you.
I thought that is such, you're purely doing it for the joy of it. And every show has been different. And sometimes you have people come on who really do share something that's going to make a difference in somebody's life. And that's very good too. And the other thing I want to say is, I don't know, Jim, if you know this, but this little one right here has been the same since I know her. I mean, she's always been this way. So if you think that, you know, she suddenly got happy when she went to Florida, I just want to this started in New York City. I definitely saw this little one always smiling, always laughing. She has laughing eyes. You know, she's the kind of face that if you looked at her from here up, you would see that she's just that way. So you're a gift, honey, and I thank you for inviting me today.
You're wonderful. You're a gift. Thank you so much. God bless you, Aunt Betty. Thank you. Boy, I'm going to start to cry already. No, we do go way back, and it's touching. And as time flies, I'm grateful to have everybody in my life. So, amen and thank God.
And now Aunt Betty's a part of my life, and I love that too.
Aunt Betty is very much a part of Jim's life. We're all family. Are you kidding me? We're family. We are family, and I'll tell you, it's an amazing thing every day that goes by.
Where are you living, Aunt Betty?
In Saratoga Springs, New York.
Oh, that's where the Belmont Steaks are today.
That's right. It's so crowded. It's so crowded. Big musical bands are in the street. They're really doing it up this year, and it's it's a city. It's not a town. Yeah. So, you know, coming from New York City myself, I really appreciate that, you know. And I love Lake George, too. I have a little bit of both, which is nice.
Everyone raves about Saratoga Springs.
Yes.
So, I think so. Yeah, it's the beauty, and it's and they have the arts here as well, and more than you would find in a small town, but yet it has the intimacy because it's a small city.
Yes.
So it's all right. Yeah. I can't believe I'm talking to you, Jim. This is a thrill for me.
Good, good. Well, I've got to tell you, this is very interesting. Aunt Betty had sent me a note. It's actually a letter. Why does the labyrinth attract people? And with that being said, Betty, can you elaborate more as to what that means? Why does the labyrinth attract people?
Well, the piece that I gave was written by Reverend Dr. Lauren Artris, who's the founder of the Labyrinth Project. It's called Veriditas, and translated, it means the greening of the spirit. It was a phrase that was coined by Hildegard of Bingen, which is one of the saints and doctors of the church. It's an interesting piece that she wrote. She said it's a tool to guide healing, self-knowledge, empower creativity. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to talk from now on in. But walking the labyrinth clears the mind, or I would like to say quiets the mind, and gives insight into the spiritual journey. It urges action. It calms people in the throes of transitions. It's definitely a transitional tool. So the work I get to do has a lot to do with different venues that offer people that path to help them experience the labyrinth from either a place of revelation or validation or simply receiving some clarity. It helps them see their life in the context of a path or a pilgrimage, which makes the labyrinth a tool that speaks to us in metaphors. And they realize those who are walking, and this is right out of Teilhard de Chardin, who was a Jesuit priest, and his work actually was not allowed to be published when he was alive. He was so radical talking about the universal Christ. But what he said was that we're definitely spiritual beings on a human path. And think about that when you're on the labyrinth. The labyrinth is a human tool. It's a tool, and we're the spiritual beings on this tool.
Right.
To those of us who feel we have untapped gifts to offer, it stirs a creative fire within. To others who are in deep sorrow, the walk gives solace and peace. I've been doing a lot of work with bereavement groups. Again, that's a major transition. It could be losing a loved one. It could be losing the experience you've had for years as you retire. You're not seeing the same people every day. You're not having that same experience. Transitions can be very difficult. So the labyrinth is an incredible tool for helping people recognize where they are and where they need to be and where they're going. Sometimes, and I often tell people this, it's a tool that sometimes they can be holy cow experiences, but it's best not to go on with expectations. Because if you go on with expectations, it's almost like you're going through a green forest and you're only going to look for green frogs. I'm not looking at the trees. I want green frogs on this visit. That's it. And you're missing out. You're missing out. So not to go on with expectations. I'm going to get to some of the guidelines, a little bit of the history, and then I'm going to tell stories. And they'll understand a little bit about what my works look like in the world. To others who are in deep sorrow, I mentioned that the experience is different. This is the last part of it. The experience is different for everyone because each of us brings different raw materials to the labyrinth. We bring our unique hopes and dreams, history. And this part I love because I believe it's one of those tools that addresses the longings of the soul. And this was written by Dr. Reverend Lauren Artris, and it's from her book, Rediscovering the Labyrinth as a Spiritual Tool.
Beautiful.
So I love the labyrinth. I first was introduced to it and this was just my own brief history. I was introduced to it at Silver Bay, which is a YMCA conference center on Lake George within the Adirondack Preserve. It's really quite beautiful. And I remember I was introduced to it at a time when others had had a chance to walk it while I was doing another body of work on campus. I was in the children's program. And nobody could really explain to me what it was like. I would ask my husband even, what was it like? And he would just say, it was, And I said, well, that's not telling me very much.
Honey, thank you very much.
No, I need a little bit more. And then I finally came back another time up there and somebody had a video walking a sacred path. And I really, really was drawn to what I was listening to. Then I'm really fast forwarding a lot of this. And then I was in New York City. I was still working in the classroom. And I was sick. I remember having a cold. I didn't go to school, and teachers don't stay home very well. We always
Right.
do stuff. So I remember seeing that the woman who spoke on the video was an Episcopalian priest. So I called St. John the Divine, which is the cathedral in New York City.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And it's beautiful. And this is where it gets very synchronistic. This is where it's happened to me so many times in working with the Labyrinth that I called and I simply wanted to know, do they do Labyrinth work? When I found out that Lauren was going to be there that weekend, Dr. Artris.
Wow.
And so Johnny and I went, and we were there, a very special workshop that lasted from 10 in the morning till 10 at night, with several times walking, lots of training and talking about the Labyrinth. And by the time I got back to Silver Bay that summer, I had made a decision because of what had happened. To be honest with you, the first time I walked, I just wanted to see if I could get in and get out. The Labyrinth is very interesting. And
how high is it? Does it extend?
This is the classical. I'm going to get into the history of it now. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Beautiful.
The classical one. This is the one that's quite old. There are many variations of this, but it goes back thousands of years. And what I love about the Labyrinth is that it existed on every continent before communication was even possible because of either language or distance or time. So there's something in us that creates these sacred spaces in all the cultures, in all the continents. And it was either on pottery or rocks or on caves. I mean, it was everywhere.
Wow.
The one that I like to work with, and the one that Veritas works with mostly, but we do work with lots of variations, would be this one. And this is the 11th Circuit. Are you seeing this? Okay, 11th Circuit. And this is the one that you'll find in Chartres Cathedral in France.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been there 3 times where we do a beautiful pilgrimage with people. And we actually have the cathedral to ourselves late in the evening where we have it all covered with candles. And we come walking through the crypt and there's beautiful music between.
I was just going to ask you that about the music. Yes.
Well, it's interesting. Chartres Cathedral, the French call it Mary's house. And it's not a place where you would see in the crypt any bodies being buried because it represents life, this whole cathedral. And it's also designed for voices more than instruments. So there's something about that cathedral that's incredibly, incredibly special. If you ever get a chance, and plus the stained glass in itself, it's very well known. During the wars, they took down the stained glass windows, and that's why they were able to preserve them. Most of the European cathedrals, unfortunately, with the bombing, they lost a lot of that beautiful artwork, but not Chartres Cathedral. They saved all of it. And some of it is just so beautiful, and especially the glass designs that are around the Labyrinth. You have celebrating the craftsmen, the shoemakers, right by the Labyrinth, which is where we're walking. They have beautiful ones of Mother Mary. This is I don't know if you can see this. This is called the Blue Virgin. I know you can't see it; it's too small. Anyway, the Blue Virgin. That's how intricate they are. Now you may be able to see how intricate they are. I don't know if you can still see it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes, we see it.
Absolutely.
Really, I didn't even know I had it up here. But yeah, so there's a lot there.
Wow.
Let me just see my notes here. So, so I got very involved with the Labyrinth. I did have that experience of wanting to get in and get out. And then the follow-up experience was indeed a holy cow. And I'm going to give you an example of a metaphor. Notice everything when you're on the Labyrinth. I'm kind of out of sync. I thought I was going to do an intro, a history, some guidelines, and tell stories, but I see that I'm going to intertwine stories into some of this information. When I walked the Labyrinth the second time, I was walking behind a very old man. He was shuffling. I had been told that I could certainly walk around, that it was important to connect with my breath and that finding my own pace. And I would naturally slow down as I connect with my breath. And so here I was walking, and I knew I could walk, around this older gentleman, especially around where it has the twists and turns, which is another metaphor for life, just like life. But I stayed. And what I realized was I wasn't there, I was here. And I had done so much night school, getting myself to teach, getting my master's, 30 above my master, all of that. And the idea of going back to school, are you crazy? you know, but yet, what I realized was I'm not there, I'm still here, I can still do this. And I didn't really verbalize to myself, articulate that I really wanted to do more work with the Labyrinth and to be able to perhaps start a school. And so I can't tell you how on fire I felt. I have come to believe that when we're on the right path, it's not so hard. I have a quote up here that I always look at. It's Rumi, this Persian prophet. And he talks about
Sorry about that.
that's your end, yeah. He talks about if I sit in my own place of patience,
I don't know if that's the Lord giving us a sign.
I guess it's right past right by my window, so I think we're good now, guys.
I get them here too, so it may happen on both ends. But what Rumi said, which is so true, what I need flows to me when we're not in this patient of anxiety or stress. And what his understanding was, from what I want also wants me, is looking for me and attracting me. So when we're on the path and we're able to slow down, we can connect with these moments that feel like holy cow. But in fact, either it's a revelation or a validation, or I knew I wanted to do more there, or clarity, I can see this now. So this is all happening, and every walk can be different. I've been doing this work for over 25 years now. And I can tell you that my favorite part, first of all, is getting folks on the Labyrinth quickly after they've had a little bit of history and some guidelines. The guidelines are very simple. We ask people to connect with their breath, to perhaps think of the 3 R's, we call them. Sometimes there are 4 R's, remembering, but also most importantly, releasing what no longer serves before you enter, thinking about what that might look like. It could be releasing an intention, releasing the fact that I'm a pilgrim searching. I have no idea what I'm working with or walking with. And receiving at the center, which has a great deal of energy. And I'm trying to just give you snippets because I could go into what the center represents and all of that, but I'm trying to move along here. The center has a great deal of energy. And on the way out, that's receiving. And on the way out, it's returning, connecting with the world, with what you've been given. But having worked with it all these years, I can honestly tell you that sometimes those stages happen at various moments. You could be receiving on the way in. You could be returning, thinking already of how you're connecting with returning while you're in the center. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There are guidelines. And one of the things that I love about the Labyrinth is that no matter where I've done the Labyrinth work, there is a sense of reverence. And because they're mostly secular groups that I've worked with, although I have to tell you, they're in, you'll find them in schools, in prisons, in churches, in synagogues, playgrounds, retreat centers, colleges, hospitals for sure. California Pacific was the first one. I've worked with medical schools, I've worked with schools, I've worked with colleges, I've worked with people who have done prison work. It's just the most amazing tool. I've worked with corporations. And so when I worked with the Labyrinth in the school that I was teaching in at the time, I had borrowed one that we had painted at Silver Bay. And I had borrowed it with the intention of keeping it for 2 weeks. It stayed 5 months.
Wow.
I was in a coalition campus with 5 different schools.
Wow.
Everybody wanted to walk. So I was giving up preps. I was getting there early. I wasn't having lunch, staying late because I was excited too. And I couldn't believe what was happening. And then Silver Bay was just starting a respite program in Trinity House. And they offered, because I had spoke to my good friend who was the chaplain at the time, UCC minister, United Church of Christ. And I told him, I said, I think we need to get away from the school and really talk about this. And he said, sure. So I had thought maybe 3 or 4 people would like to come. It turned out 25. We had to cut it off. So many
Fabulous.
people. We
Great.
had parents and teachers, social workers. So much good came out of that. But in sticking to the story, I'll just say that I knew for sure, and I wanted to say Dorothy Day from the Catholic Worker Movement, she really inspired me with this quote. And the quote, as I translated it into the school vision, was to be able to create a space, a very beautiful, creative, with the arts and rigorous and beautiful. I hate that word, rigorous. That's not really my word. Beautiful curriculum that really excited children about learning. The quote was creating an environment where it would be easier for us to be good. Good at who we are, good at what we do, good at who we are with one another. And
Beautiful.
And I have worked in incredibly beautiful schools. I worked with Deborah Meyer, who went on to win the MacArthur Award. She got me into teaching. I worked with her as a para in a school where people who had masters were working in whatever capacity they could just to be able to work with her. And there was some incredible experiences that I was absorbed, but I wanted more. I wanted it not to be quite so hectic and to have it be grounded in the sort of way that community could really move forward, making sure they got anything that came up that was in the way out of the way. And so there was a few things that we initiated. I wanted the Labyrinth to be part of it. I developed a school with it. I wanted to make sure that, first of all, I want to say, you're going to hear me saying I a lot, but please understand that any body of work of this significance never happens without community.
Mhm.
I mean, the fact that I had so many wonderful people come into my life at the right time made all the difference. And when they did, we just kept going. We just kept going. And it was in the bylaws. It was a way to have it be sustainable, so they would understand this is what we're going to use to develop the staff. So in doing that, I would have Labyrinth walks once a month in place of a business meeting, so we would continue walking. So what did that look like? I'm hoping I'm giving you enough on terms of, I think I have on that piece. In terms of, now I would just want to maybe tell a few stories, and please ask questions that I haven't covered, something you really want to know. So you've heard about the vision, that creating community always. But
Trying to envision the labyrinth. Is it hedges?
No, actually, I should have said that earlier. The labyrinth is not a maze. A lot of those hedges that you think about really kind of close you off. They hide you into this place that's mysterious, and you've got to find your way out. There's only one path in the labyrinth, one that leads you in, the same path that leads you out.
Okay.
So having said that, is this noise bothering you? There's somebody mowing the lawn out here.
No.
Okay, let me know. It's bothering me, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah. So it's that the hedges you're talking about, Jim. I've seen them on farms and things. They like to have these little mazes for people to play in while something's going on. I'm not sure, but that's not the labyrinth. And the labyrinth, yeah, it does, and it could be made with, my gosh, there's so many variations. The training that I do, I'm on faculty with Veritas, and I get a chance to train new facilitators. And we just had a beautiful training, and I get to work with somebody who is pretty amazing as he's a master labyrinth builder, and there are a few of them at Silver Bay. Few of them at Veritas. What I want to say about Veritas is that it's veriditas.org, Veriditas. And when I started with Lauren, that was a long time ago, and then she turned it into a nonprofit, and then it became so much more. The quick story I want to tell you is that when COVID hit, many of us went back online on Zoom to see what Veritas was saying about all of this. This was before the vaccines. This was before anybody knew what was happening. This is when everybody was seeing horrendous images on TV, body bags and trucks outside of hospitals containing This was when it was at its worst and fear was at its height.
Right.
And I can remember getting on that night, and there were 500 people from around the world, because it's a global organization, that tuned in.
Wow.
For the finger labyrinth walk. And a finger labyrinth walk, you have something like this, or you have it on paper, or, it's something you can use with your finger walking. Many of us have had finger labyrinths in our home. We think they're beautiful. Didn't really use them as much. But since COVID, it got used much, much more. Getting back to those 500 people, they were from Australia and Hong Kong and France and Spain and Portugal, which is where we still do pilgrimages. What happened that night, I never felt more human in my life, because we were all feeling the same exact thing.
Right. That connection.
Right.
We were scared. We were unsure. We were hopeful. We were clinging to the labyrinth and to that community to see what we could do. And still today, if you go on veritas.org for free, you can sign up to a finger labyrinth walk every Friday. And there's one of us doing the walk, usually faculty or somebody who's working there in other capacities, doing pilgrimages and teaching. So having said that, that's something I wanted to make sure I said, because it's a beautiful gift to leave you all with, that this is something that you'll learn more on the website, because it's really expanded. And there are so many very talented people there trying to share what they know and make offerings to have you join workshops and qualifying workshops and all of that.
If I may say, Betty, what is the feeling, the experience of seeing somebody for the very first time, knowing about the labyrinth and experiencing in front of your eyes? You've been doing this for quite some time. How does it affect you when you see their response? I would imagine it's much more emotional than it should be, because of the connection that's amongst all of you. Does that make sense?
Are you speaking about those who come to walk in my program?
Yes.
It's a wonderful feeling. It's why I still do it. It's why I still do it.
Wow.
I know that this is, for me, the labyrinth has been, in a way, my meeting place with the divine.
Right.
Because there's a point where I don't talk much. I really just want to prepare people, give them some guidelines, help them. There's usually some journaling, something that's inspiring, which works very well in secular environments, because it's very interesting. You can hold the space a certain way, which is reverent in itself. The music also holds the space. The beauty that you surround the labyrinth with holds the space. It could be nature. It could be something more thematic. Like when I'm working with Holy Week, for instance, if I'm in a church, I have the last words of Christ all around the labyrinth. You can use it in so many different ways. Poetry is a big draw for me, because I know how inspiring it is. But having said that, even when I'm working with a secular group, because of the way the space is held, the spirituality, the conversations around that come from the group, and that's all right. That's different. That's safe. You know what I mean? I would never want anybody who is not there yet in their own development to feel like they are not where they need to be, because because we're putting it out there as strictly a religious event. There's a place and time for that, but I love that it's also drawing many people who aren't there. They feel that they're on a different spiritual path, which is beautiful. Right. So it's very inclusive. And when you're on the labyrinth, you really do have softer eyes. And with those softer eyes, you're really recognizing that we're all on this journey. We're all on this path. And there's a beginning, and there's a middle, and there's an end. And sometimes, because of those softer eyes, you see people in a very different way on the labyrinth. And then, of course, when we come off the labyrinth, because it's a sacred space where there's no fixing, advising, or, making, comments on what people say. It's a very sacred space, and what gets said there stays there. But it's also the freedom of being able to share. I often ask people when they get off the labyrinth to continue with what they've been journaling. Sometimes it's completely different than what I've been offering as a theme. Sometimes it goes deeper with the theme. Sometimes it's something else. But it doesn't matter, because whatever they're sharing is about their experiencing the experience. And then that gets shared with the group. And so it's a very powerful tool. And if it's held the right way, people come away really feeling like they've had an experience. And the experience is usually a very wholesome, um, powerful experience. And I'm just going to say that when I started the school, um, I went up to the Bronx by myself, leaving New York City, Manhattan, with a group that I was supposed to start a school with on the theme of wellness, but I was invited to come because they had been looking for somebody. And when I went up there, I really liked the group. And I thought, I think I'm going to stay here. And they were further along in writing their proposal. And I had a chance to work with them the last year. So I added things. So one of the things I added was having worked in schools that were good schools, but I also felt that they struggled with the burden of overactivity, and Thomas Merton speaks a great deal about overactivity being a form of violence. It really chips away at who we really are. Even the best of us, even with our best intentions, if we don't take time to connect with what he used to call, what we still call the true self, the real deal, and not being connected with that.
Good point about overactivity, because I think our society focuses on that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's right.
Parents with their children, they're always trying to keep them active, and it reaches the point of overactivity.
Oh my gosh. Thomas Merton wrote, he said, there is a pervasive form of contemporary violence, and that is activism and overwork. The rush and presence of modern life are a form, perhaps the most common form of its innate violence. And he goes on to speak about that. And I think just making people aware, that's the beauty of the Labyrinth. There's an opportunity for heightened awareness, and it's very personal. It's a very personal experience. So you're getting something that is meant for you. And so I wanted the 4 agreements to be part of our bylaws as a way to have a code of conduct. And we worked with those. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Miguel Ruiz's work, but he had been a successful doctor who had an awful accident and then went back to his Mexican Toltec roots and decided that he wanted to learn more about how to live. He realized the life he had wasn't the best life. And in going through the sacred writings with his great-grandfather, he found that the 4 agreements spoke to what it was that he should pay attention to. And the 4 agreements were the impeccability of our words. We say what we mean what we say. Think about this in a school setting, how valuable this is. It's the most important of all the agreements, by the way, because it's a powerful word. The word impeccability comes from the Latin word impecatus, which is without stain. The second is to not assume. And it takes great courage to ask questions. We have a misunderstanding.
I love that.
And if I don't set it straight with you, I'm going to walk away with a wrong idea.
Right.
Actually influence my relationship. Think about it in a school setting where communication is so important. The 3rd agreement is not to take it personal.
Amen.
Yeah, right.
I love it. Absolutely. I love that.
If you step out of your own ego for a while,
that's right.
You're going to hear it differently. You're going to see it differently. That person is not going to rub you the same way.
So true.
And then the last one, which we really put a different spin on, but I love it, was do the best you can. But it wasn't about taking one for the team or for the school. It was holding people responsible for the Buddhist concept of we're responsible for our own happiness. And so do the best you can means do your inner work. Do your inner work. Paying attention to all the agreements. So, and then we would use those with the kids as well. And sometimes it would be as simple as asking them, which agreement are you struggling with? And we give kids language because, in the classrooms, we would have a time ins instead of a time out. And there would be a sand labyrinth there or a finger labyrinth there. And it's a way of cultivating the concept of, instead of thinking what's wrong with you, we think what's happened to you. And that's all kids need. And when we think, especially today, what kids are thinking about, when we're thinking about what kids are thinking about and they're going through, it's really important that they have access to tools that will help them reflect as well. If they're not, don't even get me going on that, because that's something that I regret not having done enough of. And I still thought that I could have time to do more of it. Um, the fact that I wanted to be able to do even more with what I call tape. I'm an early childhood teacher originally. And so the idea of tape makes sense. I could have called it glue, but tape works. Tape works. And tape meant teachers and parents as elders. And it doesn't matter what age you are. It's about recognizing who you are and the capacity for who you can become and what that looks like to the children in our lives. So there's all of that and more. Anyway, that's one of the things that we would work with. In terms of the walks themselves, I was always trying to build community and always trying to make sure that people were able to utilize those tools that we had all throughout the school, that it wasn't something that was just hanging on walls like Mary Oliver poems, creating intentional communities, survive profound disruptions in amazing and organic ways. That's a powerful body of work that she put out there for us to remember. We're starting an intentional community. And sometimes I would do a walk and I would, again, a secular school, I would use the book Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth. And on chapter 5, it was all about pain bodies. And I remember doing a walk with everyone. We read that chapter together. And I wanted them to think about it. And what we came away with understanding, all of us, was that we all have them, but that it's not who we really are. So the idea of softer eyes and developing more of a compassionate look on life really made a difference. When I used to work in East Harlem, which was when I first started teaching, I can remember that there was a word that they used in the community for that kind of gossip that tears at the skin, and it was called bochinche. So I would love to use that word and say bochinche. It's a Puerto Rican word, it means all the wrong stuff. I use all the Italian word just like it, right, Jim? There's an Italian word for bochinche, I'm sure. And so we wanted it to be a bochinche-free zone. We had the tools to make it work, and so that would be one walk we would do. And I'll tell you one more story, and then whatever you want to ask me, or we'll talk more. After I retired, I got called back to the school after the election. And I'm very careful not to get political because I know that my groups are very diverse. This particular walk was because I had the population was very integrated with social economically diverse groups. So you had, people from Riverdale, people who were local from lots of different ethnic backgrounds. This is so New York, which is so great, right?
Right.
And they called me back because the Muslim families were really, really scared. And there were some people, as we have all known, there's a great division in conversations around politics and around all of that. So they needed me to come back. And what I did is I went and I immediately brought, there were about 20, 25 people who came to the walk from all these different perspectives and different views and different reasons for being upset and angry. And I brought them right to the center and I did a ritual. Rituals are very important to the work, not always existing, but the labyrinth is so vast that you use it for so many things. What I did is I created a ritual and I used the quote of Rumi. The quote says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a path. There is a field. I'll meet you there." And so what I use is the Shanti bell.
Oh.
And what I did is I would say, this is how the ritual would look. Out beyond ideas of right doing or wrongdoing, there is a path. I will bless you. You would take this from me and say, "I'll meet you there. Namaste."
Beautiful.
And then that person would go to the next one, out beyond ideas. And it went around, around, and around, and around, and around. Everybody got a chance to say all those words.
Can I tell you how soothing this feels to me right now?
Oh yeah.
I'm loving this. This is fabulous. I just love this.
Debbie, there's hope out there. I love the
Ah,
Labyrinth. I love
I
the
am
Labyrinth.
so. Oh,
And Veritas is doing incredible work around the world. And I'm just feeling, and I've worked just recently with first responders from Vermont. I just did a training with new facilitators who came from all over the country. There's just, to me, that gives me hope, Debbie, to be able to work with this and to be able to find myself back into working even more with schools that need to reconnect and recommit, to be able to share some of this knowledge, but also to be in that place of receiving. I don't ever talk this much when I'm with a group. You know, for me, the best part is when they come back and they share.
right, right.
People hear what others have to say, and
Sure.
it becomes very connecting. It becomes very connecting. We realize that we're all on this journey,
Right.
and it's
And I'm very proud of you, I have to say, because also it hasn't been that long since you lost Johnny, my uncle, your love. And
Yeah.
between the two of you, it's just the most spiritual people you'll ever want to know. So, I mean, honestly,
Good days, on good days.
but he was a
Johnny was
beautiful,
Johnny,
beautiful soul. Beautiful soul.
Johnny
for
was
sure.
the love of my life. We grew up together, and we
I
grew
know,
old together. And we were a labyrinth people together. We built the outdoor labyrinth at Silver Bay, and we painted the ones at school. And he died on
the
our
strength that this is
50th,
giving you.
50th
Right.
anniversary. He died on that day.
Mm.
And I mean, my romantic till the end. Okay.
Yes.
And and he's still so much with me. I feel it,
Of course.
and I know this is the work that he was very proud of.
I could see that.
You have a very peaceful spirit, Aunt Betty.
She
Oh,
does, doesn't
And,
she?
Well-
and being with you, you can feel the presence of the Lord, which is
Yes.
just
You
very
know,
heartfelt.
it's been so interesting for me to work in different venues. When I worked at the medical school at Albert Einstein in New York City, which is part of Montefiore.
That's where Holly was born.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
the hospital
wow.
Holly was born in. Yeah.
Wow. I can remember that it was the doctor that I had. She was my primary, and she saw what I was doing. She was very interested, and she came to walk at the school, and she brought some people with her, and they liked what happened, and they wanted me to go back to their place, which I did. And the whole concept of that was for compassionate medicine, because I used to work in a hospital when my babies were little. And I can tell you right now that they're so overworked, and
Yes.
they're so not in the place to heal anybody. There's no hands-on. I mean, just the introduction of other modalities too, to be able to incorporate that into their practice was an insight for them. So
Yeah.
that was good. I've worked in synagogues. I worked with Rabbi Ben, and I was so impressed with him because, again, she invited me to work with her Reconstructivist Jewish community. And when I worked with Rabbi Ben, I was looking for old scriptures and Old Testament, what I could bring in perhaps, and definitely secular work. And when I got there, all the stuff that he had collected was basically quotes from Thomas Merton.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew all about Merton. So I really believe that truth is truth. And people who get this come together and they can express it in a way that's not offensive or any of those things that would alarm or insult or abuse anybody's truth. I think that there's a way for us to come together. For me, the Labyrinth is that tool. And I've seen it work in so many places and corporations. I think Brene Brown is doing a great job, by the way. If you don't know Brene Brown, you should. She's got a great take on Netflix. I'm giving all these people plugs because they inspire me. She speaks a lot about vulnerability and how important it is to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. I mean, Johnny and I never stopped being vulnerable with one another. That's the price. I belong to a club now nobody wants to be part of. I don't even like the word widow, but I don't regret any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, vulnerability is letting yourself be open to
That's right.
all that is there to be
Right.
received. And that's what we're here for. So the Labyrinth is really beautiful, a beautiful tool for that. It's definitely known as a transitional tool. And so having said that, I could go on and on. Is there anything else that you want to ask me? I'm sorry if I'm taking over too much.
No, it's very interesting.
Yes.
Beautiful.
We're learning from you.
Very soothing. Very, very soothing.
Well, I can give you one more example of a metaphor. when we had built the outdoor labyrinth at Silver Bay, it was wonderful. And I didn't quite know how I was going to go back to New York City. I was teaching in East Harlem. And I thought, how am I going to bring this back? How am I going to feel this peace there? You know, I mean, there were some hard moments. And I can remembering how important it was to notice everything around you. And this is a good example for life, paying attention to the metaphors. I saw a squirrel that jumped up, was on a tree and got on this very loose limb, and he was all over the place, and it was really comical to watch him. He was barely holding on. And I remember smiling, but what really moved me was he jumped to a more steady branch. And then I was incredibly moved by the fact that he didn't go down to where it was safe, that he went higher.
Yeah.
Something came in, and I absolutely knew I was going to be all right. I knew I was going to be all right.
The metaphor, sure.
Metaphors, the old man, the all of that. And they've come to me many, many different times. But I think that all of these pieces that I've talked about, and there's so many more, sometimes you can have moments at groups that I've worked with where you just know you're in the right place at the right time. There was one time I held a walk, and there was the woman came in. Clearly her husband did not want to come. Clearly she dragged him to the walk. And they both came in, and they're sitting down there, and she's so excited about listening. He's like this. And he doesn't want to do anything. He has this really, really sour expression on his face, really sour presence. And so I went ahead and I went through my thing, and I, read a couple of poems, and I talked about the history, and I talked about some guidelines, and I welcomed people onto the labyrinth. And I noticed that something came over him while he was walking. And when we came back to share, he couldn't wait to share.
Yeah.
And when he shared, he said, I came here and I was scared. He said, I'm going for open heart surgery, and I'm really scared. At which point I could tell him I had just gone through that. And it's going to be okay. I mean, you never know. There's been so many times where it's been synchronistic for me, and I find myself in the right place at the right time, or I'm reading the right material at the right time. And one of my favorite pieces, I'm going to just stop here in case you have to ask me anything, but I do want to introduce you to a wonderful woman who's no longer with us, but her work is valuable. Her name is Angeles Ariane, and she was a cultural anthropologist who did 45 years of research in all of these indigenous areas. And what she found out, and then I'm going to stop after this, okay? But after she did all of her research, she found that in visiting all of these places around the world, tribes, she found out that when anybody was experiencing soul loss or depression, they would go to the shaman or the holy men, and that basically their questions were the same. They wanted to know, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop being comforted by the sweet territory of silence? When did you stop being enchanted by stories, especially your own life story? And because they believed that when those stopped, that's when you started experiencing soul loss. And then she makes this wonderful connection that, when we stop singing, we lose our voice, our fifth chakra, truth. We swallow our tongue. We aren't as vocal about what's important to us. When we stop dancing, we're missing out on, and dancing could be exercise, could be walking, it could be anything, but we're missing the connection between body wisdom. When we're stopping being enchanted by stories, particularly our own life story, we lose fire. We lose the sense of our heart story. And then I like the way she says it here, when we stop being comforted by the sweet territory of silence, is where we began to mistrust the mystery, or the unfamiliar, or the unknown. The labyrinth is full of mystery. It's full of mystery. And I can tell you all the rules, but believe me, it's a unique experience. It's about experiencing the experience. It changes every time. And I'm in love with it because of what it's offered in my life. But I also love what it's simply there when others walk, and I can be part of that. I mean, talk about building community.
We could
Yeah.
see the passion, Betty, with you. We can absolutely,
Right.
right?
Such,
can feel it.
such
Yeah.
a deepness,
Feel
such
it,
a
you can see
deepness.
it. It overtakes you. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
It's beautiful. Transition is not easy for many people.
Yeah.
When they come. You know, I've done rituals, my little bell. I've done rituals with people who are transitioning. We talked earlier, but those transitions are hard. Transitions in bereavement, transitions in work, transitions in life's work, transitions having planted seeds in family, and now your family is everywhere else.
Mhm.
So there's a piece that I love to read, and then I'll stop. But this piece is called "A Future Not Our Own," and it was written for Bishop Romero in El Salvador. This was after he was shot and martyred. And it's a beautiful piece. I love reading it because it talks about what's important. It starts by saying it helps now and then to step back and take a long view. No set of goals and objectives include everything. This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water the seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capabilities. And then he ends it by saying, we cannot do everything. And there is a sense of liberation realizing this. This enables us to do something and to do it well. It may not be complete, it may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and do the rest. We may never see the end result, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are workers, not master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future not our own. I always cry when I hear that.
Yes, very
It's,
touching.
it's just so true, that it's and sometimes it really helps. And then of course I'll do the ritual, and we have other things that we bring into that ceremony. There's so much to the labyrinth, much more than I'm sharing today. So if you're really interested, you should go on Veritas because they have programs that you can look at.
Betty, would you spell that?
Yeah, V is in Victor. Veriditas, Veriditas. It means the greening of the soul,
Okay.
or the flowering of the soul. And
Beautiful.
and then anybody who's in this work continues to grow and study. So my next body of work is going to be soul collage. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to North Carolina to work with this very gifted woman, Catherine Anderson, who's on faculty with me. She's amazing. And she does pilgrimages in Portugal and Iona and Scotland and all of these holy places where the veil is very thin.
Well, you've enriched our lives today, Aunt Betty.
Most certainly had. This is what Bright Horizons is all about. It's about enriching our lives, giving you a bright spot to be in, to look at. And you've done that and then some. Let me tell you what, you've got an awful lot of, my soul right now, I want to run to the labyrinth right now. I am just so relaxed.
Oh, when you go on Veriditas, they have a labyrinth locator. So you can find one near you.
Okay.
Just plug it in, and they'll tell you where they are. And there's a big movement now to make sure that if there are any lonely labyrinths that have been built but are no longer tended to, there are groups that are going into those areas to make sure that they're back up and running because there's such a demand for them.
Sure.
So the labyrinth locator would be a really good thing for you to see. Yeah.
This has been so enriching. What do you think, Jim? This is really
touched our souls, Aunt Betty.
You guys, your show, I see where you're going with this, and this is about wanting to grow yourselves,
Yeah.
And every time you have somebody come on your show, I always come away feeling a little bit more.
Thank you.
Nice.
So that's a really beautiful thing and a beautiful offering. Bright Horizons.
And
I don't know if you're going to use the tambourine or your song at the end of this.
I'm so calm now. I don't know if I should. You want me to rev it up?
What a difference a day makes.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is part of our show. So ending with that being said,
Yes, yes.
hear it. Woohoo! Woo!
What a
Let's sing. Come on.
difference.
Aunt Betty, sing with us. What a
What a
difference
difference
a
a
day
day makes.
24
24 little hours.
brought the
With the
sun
sun
and
and
the
the flowers.
flowers. Where
Where
there
there
used
used
to
to
be
be
rain.
rain.
What
What
a
a difference a day makes.
And Aunt
The
Betty, that's you.
differences.
And
You,
Jim, you, and it's you, Debbie.
you.
That's Jim, that's Betty, that's me, and you and you. Betty,
Let's take it on the road. What do you say? Let's just take it on the road.
come on now, y'all.
Give my love to David and to Lisa too, and Cal Holly. I don't know.
I sure will. I sure will. This has been such a pleasure.
We're
And joining
definitely-
our family, Jim.
Yeah, we definitely want you to return again, Aunt Betty, as a
For
guest.
sure.
I'll be glad to. I'll be glad to. I'll let you know next time more about Soul Collage. It's huge. It's also left brain, right brain activity, and it's being used a lot with the Labyrinth. And I'm going to be doing work this summer, holding workshops for it. And I'll be doing further studying in August. I'll be going to North Carolina, as I mentioned, with Catherine, because she's faculty on Veritas. But it's one of the fastest growing healing modalities. I'll talk about it next time.
And I want to hear more about your educating years, because I know you've touched the souls of the children too.
And their parents. It's so important. In early childhood, when you start in early childhood in a school, you're creating the culture for the
Yes.
school.
Of
When I
course.
started my school, I was very blessed to start from the bottom up. I didn't have to go into a culture already established. So
Right.
that was really important. Just so you know that it's not as easy as it sounds. I was
Right.
blessed with all the right elements.
Yes.
Right
Well,
on.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Betty, thank you so much. Jim, thank you.
And send
Love
love.
you, Jim. I love you, Betty.
I
And
love
until
you,
next
Susan.
time, we always say, keep your horizons
Horizons
bright.
bright.
God bless you.
Amen for that. Amen.
And we'll
Love
talk
you.
soon, okay?
God bless you.
Bye.
God bless you.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.